now like to introduce the teams from GIFT on young people's participation and Young Minds on parents to present on their work. It's going to be a continuous presentation, so very much welcome you to the floor.
Good afternoon, everyone. We've got a team effort this afternoon, so I'm going to introduce everyone to you. I'm Fiona Warner-Gale, a small part of the GIFT partnership. And we're going to talk to you about children and young people's participation in CYP IAPT. I have to say this morning's been really exciting for us, and I can feel some real momentum in the room. I think it's actually one of the most exciting conferences I've been to in a long time, probably in my 28 years, which doesn't qualify me as a young person working in CAMS. I've never felt such kind of excitement and a movement towards change and a commitment towards change. So I think we should all be very proud of ourselves. And I think the most significant part for us is that young people have been really involved today, very present, and being listened to. So we're going to start off with some personal statements from our GIFT young sessional workers. And we're going to kind of go back in time and imagine if we didn't have participation in place and what things are like. So they're going to share their thoughts with you. And we're going to start off with Amanda. Amanda Tuffrey is going to read her personal statement.
If participation didn't exist, there would be no voice for young people. They would feel marginalised and they would not feel like they're an integral part of service transformation. Services wouldn't be tailor-made with young people in mind. It would be like going back in time with attitudes and working with people with mental health issues. There wouldn't be pressure on mental health professionals to listen to young people, what they are doing right and what they are doing wrong. Personally, I wouldn't be as proud of mental health services as I am now working with CYP IAPT. I think it would reduce my confidence and passion for mental health service transformation as it is the most amazing thing I've ever worked on. I would be devastated that everyone's hard work, including mine, could possibly evaporate when funding ends. CAMS wouldn't be successful without participation. Service users and parents and carers are such a prominent force, it would be excluding one of the most important factors in service transformation. Feedback from focus groups and participation events give a vital link to young people, parents and carers and mental health professionals.
Thank you. And we're going to move on to Leanne Walker, who's also going to give her personal statement about participation.
Participation is something, now we have it, I wonder why we never had it from the start. It's been very important in my personal development and has opened up so many doors for me in my life. Being here today is one of those. And it would be sad to think that if it stopped, it would prevent other young people from having similar chances and experiences. To me, stopping participation would be a big disappointment. I would feel sad about it, and I know other members of the group that I am a part of would be too. It does so much more than give young people a voice. It has become an important part in CAMS and would leave a big hole if it was gone. I would feel, instead of moving towards things like improvement, better care and communication, that services would be going backwards. Involving young people in a service for young people is so important, and I believe in it. We have powerful voices, and when we come together, we can change things. This is so true for participation in CAMS.
Thank you, Leanne. And now we're going to move on to Anna, who's going to tell us her thoughts.
Okay, if service user participation stopped now, a lot of hard work that's been done would be lost. A lot has changed as a result, but it's still work in progress. Young people have invested a lot of time and effort through participation into improving services, and we can see that things are slowly changing, but we're far from where we want services to be yet. People have started listening to service users, and if participation were to end now, I believe that many of the projects that people are working on would subsequently end. This would lead to the transformations that are being made not being completed, and in many cases, if the transformation has not been fully embedded into the service, it would regress to how it was before participation. Service user participation is a lot further to go. I've heard so many great ideas around how services can be improved, stigma reduced, and mental health conditions better supported. Service users have got so much more to offer, and everyone would be losing out if participation ended. Also, participation is invaluable in supporting service users to gain confidence, develop, and grow as people. It heavily supports their therapeutic work. One service user said to me that participation gave her something to work towards, and without it, she would have ended up back in inpatient services. I think this says a lot about how valuable participation is to all those involved.
Thank you very much, Anna. And then we have Hannah, who's going to read a statement that was written by Rachel, who wasn't able to come today.
There's a good reason why I've been participating for the last 6 years. If participation were to stop, I think both the service and young people will miss out. CAMHS needs the voice of young people to make it stronger. It might not be perfect yet, but it's come so far in the last few years with the help of young people and support of adults. Personally, I've only grown confident because of the work I've done for CAMHS, and it's really helped me as a young person growing up with mental health issues to become a better person. It was hard to leave CAMHS when I turned 18, but I didn't have to totally because I was still in touch through participation. I've met some incredible people who've really changed me, and everything I've experienced has given me many skills I can use in the future. How different my CV would look without this. And we're now going to hand over to you guys. We want to know what participation, what from your perspective has changed for you. We're going to take 5 or 6 really short points.
So there's a couple of roving mics. You've got Joe over there and Bill over there. So have a think about what's really changed for you. What difference has participation made?
My name's Steph and I'm from Sheffield. Personally, participation has changed for me to show that how young people can have a big say and a big change in this world for all kinds of services.
Brilliant. Have you got any other comments? Shall we take one from this side of the room, Bill? You got any willing participants? One there.
So participation has really inspired me, listening to young people have a voice and helped change the way the service is actually run. One of our young people who's currently on the stage right now has made a huge difference within our service, particularly around the outcome measures and really making it meaningful for young people. So thank you.
Thank you. And I think we've got another one here, Bill, if you can just run up really quickly over.
Put your hand up.
Where are you? There, the lady on the table in black jumper.
I've noticed that participation has really changed the attitudes of clinicians working with young people in our service. Initially, they were perhaps a bit sceptical about what the result would be of asking young people their views, but actually they're now kind of really enthusiastic in all new kind of service developments about how young people can get involved.
You can see an impact happening all over the place, not just in the way that services look and are changing, but also on how clinicians work on a day-to-day basis, which is brilliant. And Joe, have you got a person?
Hello, I'm Christine from Devon, and I think for us participation has been the driving force for transformational change completely. It hasn't been managers saying you will use ROMs, it's been young people ask us to do that and therefore we will. It's absolutely been the driving force.
And one more from over that side. Any more? No? Everyone finished over this side, or have we got one more? There you go.
Claire from Redbridge. I guess just being quite struck by how interested the commissioners are and the directors in our trust. Since we've started our participation project, we only came on board IAPT this year, they're regularly emailing and wanting updates and reports, and as soon as you say actually we've got something the young people have put together or some idea that the young people have, they're immediately on it and they want to hear about it, which is a good start to a participation project.
So you feel that's made a big difference to how they maybe commission the services and think about how they should be structured?
I hope so. We're just starting, but okay. It's a good start. And we've got some really exciting things going on, and it's good that they are interested in those exciting things and feel as excited as we do in our team about them.
Excellent. Thank you very much. No, if there's no more, we're going to move on to what the gentleman at the back said to me. That's a very busy slide. But that actually reflects all of the work that we've been doing in GIFT and all of the work that the young sessional workers have been doing. And Anna's going to talk us through what's been going on, and then she's going to focus on a specific part of it.
Well, yeah, I'm sure you've all heard through the day bits and pieces that have been done being mentioned, but a young person, Jude, co-chairs the service development group, and I co-chair the Improving Integrating Services subgroup. And aside from that, each group usually has 2 or 3 GIFT sessional workers sat on it as well. We have met a health select committee, spoke to some MPs about basically our opinions on CAMS, what needs to be changed, what needs to be done. And we've linked in with local participation groups to see what they're doing, to share our ideas of what we want to be done, to get them to give us ideas of how we can change things.
So we've been collecting together a few examples for you of how we might sustain and embed participation. These are just a few, and I think the phrase that I was going to use has been used several times this morning by them wifeys, but I'm going to say it again. Other ways of participating and engaging young people are available. So we've just selected a few. We've seen a massive change in the way that young people are involved in recruitment and selection, and it's becoming pretty mainstreamed. And if you want to grab any of the young people here later, you'll be able to talk to them about what they've been doing, how they've been involved, the sorts of training that they've received, and how they make decisions about which staff to hire and which staff not to hire. Also, we've seen a big involvement in routine outcome monitoring, or as I've just learnt from Duncan this morning, we don't call it that anymore because it sounds kind of routine and therefore a bit mundane. So we're talking about outcome measures and how to make those meaningful for young people, and how young people can be a partner in their own care and make decisions around their own care. And we've seen a use of technology and a development of apps. There is an app under wraps. I'm not allowed to say anything about it, but Leanne might tell you. She's been significantly involved in developing an app, but it's not yet been unveiled, so you might have to kind of wait for that unveiling to happen sometime towards the end of October. Is that right? I can't tell you any more than that, but actually it's a great way of engaging young people in something that they use quite regularly, which is an app in terms of reporting on their own progress. That's all I'm saying. Don't ask me afterward. Young people have been very active in designing their own clinical and waiting areas. And I went to one CAMS just recently in Derby where there were no really old magazines in there. I was really upset because I thought there might be a good housekeeping and was needed a few cookery tips, but no, there wasn't one. And they'd also kind of chosen the furniture and the look and feel of the place was great. If you go onto the website that we've developed, My App, you can see a blog about that and how things have been developed there. So there are all ways in which young people can contribute to their own care and how it looks. We've got a lot of examples of young people redesigning services, and I don't know whether the Chili Pep workshop's been on yet. Are you here, Chili Pep? Oh, hello. You've done it already, so if you want to talk to Chili Pep, and I'm going to give you an example of what they've been doing in a minute, but they can tell you about their involvement in redesigning their services, and it's just fantastic work, really getting services right for children and young people. After all, that's what counts. It's about hearing from children and young people what they want and how they want to receive services. And also, you can spend hours scratching your head about, does this service work? Does my service really work for children and young people? And having been a commissioner myself, I really don't have the answers. As we've heard, data's kind of not great all the time, so that doesn't give us the answers. We can make a lot of assumptions as adults about how services should look, but that doesn't give us the answers. The people who give us the answers are right here. They've got a lot of creativity and innovation, intelligent thought to give you, so please work with them. There's also, I think I've heard several times about developing youth-proof information. Again, if you want to do that, you've got to work with your young people to design it. I don't know how young people want to hear information and find information. And I'm quite good really with a computer now and again. Not with a microphone, but with a computer I'm fine. But really it's about understanding from them, do they actually want to access information through computers, or do they still want to revert to the old school stuff of, you know, paper leaflets and things like that? So you need to ask them. All sorts of other things going on. I'm going to show you a few more examples about developing young people's shadow boards that sit alongside CYP IAPT or commissioning project boards. And that really is the way to go. It gives you good governance, good information, good feedback, and really strong kind of swapping of ideas between young people and project boards. We've got lots of things going on that GIFT have been involved in. We run regular participation networks in the collaboratives. Myself, I link in with the Northwest, and Anna and Cheshire and the Wirral have hosted one of the participation network events for us, as have Pennine, and we've got lots of examples like that across the country. So you need to link in with your local collaborative or your GIFT worker to find out what's going on if you're not involved in that already. And we're running annual regional conferences, as well as a massive involvement today in this conference, which is absolutely fantastic. So we're going to give you some case studies here. Please don't think that just because we're showing you one area, that doesn't mean that in the collaborative other areas aren't doing amazing things, because they are. But we just wanted to pick some examples about going forward, if you wanted to sustain and embed participation and make sure it stays there. These are the sort of things that help that to happen. These are the levers for you. So Anna's going to tell us a little bit about Cheshire and the Wirral partnership, because she's heavily involved in participation up there. I was going to do it, but I think she'd be better.
Okay, yeah, so I'm from Cheshire and Wirral Partnership, and one of the big things that we've done is most of the young people in the participation group are trained in recruitment and selection. So every time there's a new post for a staff, there's always a young person on the panel, and we're not just on the panel, we get to pick the questions we want to ask, we get to ask them, we get to choose who actually gets the job. If we say no, they don't get the job.
Sounds quite scary.
And we've met with the Trust's chief executives, so the last 2 years we've gone each year up to the Trust board to talk about what we've been doing, what we want them to do, what we want changing, and a piece of work we're doing at the moment is with safeguarding leads. We're very passionate about the lack of crisis care in our area. We've talked to the local safeguarding board, and in a couple of weeks' time we'll be going back to speak to them about what we want done, what we think we need in our area. And also we've developed a couple of animated films about CAMS and about the ways to well-being and how to support yourself.
Thank you very much. And one of the other things Anna didn't mention there that's been quite key in a lot of the collaboratives is about having an overarching participation group that draws some of the local participation groups together, so that you can start to think about sharing ideas and having a greater impact. And there's a lot of examples of those across the country. So next, just thinking about the North East Yorkshire and Humber, and we've got a lovely example here from Chili Pet. Chili Pet's a Children and Young People's Empowerment project, and I hope I'm doing you justice, Chili Pet. They're absolutely fantastic. I've done quite a bit of work with them in a past life. So, but what this example shows is that if you're going to sustain and embed participation, sometimes it's really useful to partner up with an existing participation group or someone from the voluntary sector. So we've got quite a lot of examples of those across the country. And what's happened in Sheffield, so Sheffield CAMS have partnered up with Chili Pep, and Chili Pep have a participation person 1 day a week working within CAMS, is that right? Yeah. And so that's really embedded a regular kind of slot and commitment to participation in that area. And we've got other examples in the North East Yorkshire and Humber, like Investing in Children, who've partnered up and run quite a lot of participation groups up in the top end of the region. And just to give you some more examples of the work that Chili Pep are doing, they run regular training groups for CAMS around participation in particular, so what it is, how to do it. And it really struck me when I was putting this presentation together is, actually that's probably a really good starting point. If you're not lucky enough to have a participation worker in your area, when you start to think about participation, a good and quick win is to make sure that your workforce are really clued up about participation and how to do it, so that every morning when they get up, it's the first thing on their mind. So I think that's a great place to start, and it should be a regular thing, and I think that's what you do. I think you do 4 sessions a year in Sheffield, so that all the staff build their knowledge around participation. We've also developed participation champions, and I think one of the things that we've found about participation in CAMS is that quite often busy clinicians are trying to do it as part of their role. So you don't have a person who's kind of got committed and defined time to focus on participation always. But identifying a particular group of participation champions ensures that you kind of share the load and the responsibility about engaging young people, and therefore it's always there in the service. So that's quite a good idea for doing that. Chili Pep and Sheffield CAMS have also developed transition policies, and we know that featured quite heavily this morning in our thoughts about what needs to change around CAMS. And so asking young people about how they want to make transitions into adult mental health services and to develop those policies is really key in embedding really strong, robust services that meet their needs. And then we've got the London Collaborative, and then we've had this great submission to the presentation from Oxley's. So you start to see some similarities in what I'm saying, but the things that really stood out for me from Oxley's was participation in their area has now been embedded within job descriptions for all CAMS workers, and that's quite a key example of how to ensure that participation's on everyone's minds, so it's everybody's responsibility. I think people are so busy trying to do some of their other work, they don't often think about it. What they're saying in Oxley's is small changes make big impacts, so just having it there in the job descriptions is, it's made a massive impact on CAMS. They've also mainstreamed recruitment and selection, so that young people are involved in that all the time. And also, young people have made induction videos for new staff, which I think is brilliant, a brilliant idea. Really getting participation on the radar there for new starters. And if we had our way, we'd be doing it in professional training right from the start. And then, moving on to the last area, but not least, and you never know, by 2018 there might be lots of these 8 regions, 8 collaboratives, who knows what it's going to look like. But Oxford and Reading, they also have engaged in staff training around participation, so we're starting to get in a theme here. And this is some of the information that we can share across all of the collaboratives about learning from one another. The young people have actually developed their own training programme, so a real example of co-production around training and what it should look like. And they've also got very strong and positive feedback. In fact, the same group last year won first prize in the First Light Awards. And if anyone was in Becky's workshop this morning, you'll have heard all about that. So that's just some examples to get you thinking. And you probably are looking at me because actually it isn't the last one. The Southwest, they've also thought about a sustainable participation plan, which is they've developed a 2-year participation plan. And I think actually after 2 years that doesn't mean it ends. I think that means that we've put in place a review date so that they can look at that and it remains live and current. This and the young people's expertise has helped them to exceed their own targets around training and around engagement, and they've developed all sorts of innovative ways of doing this and checking out whether services work. So things like mystery shopping, staff appraisal, and also developing sibling and parent-family participation work as well. And they are where we see an example of a collaborative shadow board that works really well. It's a very strong shadow board that interacts and supports the main project boards, and I think the key word there is support, so it's helping them to make decisions about what happens going forward. So Amanda's going to tell us a little bit about sustainable participation from her point of view, and from the point of view of the young sessional workers. We brought together this slide.
Okay, so we'll continue to celebrate the great work that has already happened, as Fiona's just been telling you about, to continue to recruit and engage young people. So recognition of involvement, so whether that's monetary or through training or have their certificate at the end of it. To promote the social benefits, like growing in confidence and meeting new people. And continually to develop new recruits, so continually looking for new people to engage in participation. To promote local and national forums so young people can get their voices heard, and more emphasis on young people's ideas. A supermarket would not ignore the needs and demands of their customers, so why should mental health services?
Thanks, Amanda. I think that's really key, actually, is looking at some of the work around customer satisfaction, customer engagement, so widening participation out further than that is thinking about, you know, what do we need to put on offer? How do we create a good supermarket, a good shop? How do we meet the needs of our customers? So that's really key. Thank you. And then from our point of view in GIFT, so that's all of us and our steering group on which sits children and young people. This is some of the learning we want to share with you about the last kind of 2 years. In terms of sustaining participation, so keeping skills local, establishing commitment. It's really important to have sign-up, not just from the clinicians, not just from the operational staff, but right the way through, right up to strategic and senior levels. There needs to be time committed to embedding participation. We've found that collaborative-driven communities of learning and practice really work, and in those we've worked alongside young people to do things like action learning sets and promote learning across the whole participation group. And also we're starting to look at developing entrepreneurial thinking. And if you want to talk to some of the GIFT folk later, you'll see they've got t-shirts on, although I've snuck mine off. It's getting far too hot. If you get them to turn around and you've got a QR code reader, you can actually link straight through to the MyUp website from the t-shirt. Good job they didn't have it in the front, but that's all I can say. But Yvonne will talk, and Bill and Kathy and all of the workers will talk to you about entrepreneurial thinking. That's about keeping participation going when perhaps there isn't any funding. So developing those skills in young people. And I went to one participation group where they were having book sales, cake sales, selling training around mental health stigma and mental health awareness that young people are delivering to bring money in. So there are ways. And then finally, just thinking about embedding a participation pathway. And GIFT have been working on this just recently. If you want to know more details about this, we can tell you about this. But it takes the model that participation isn't a hierarchical practice. All participation is valid and equal, and young people can get involved in many different ways. Sometimes they don't want to be up on the stage like our young people here are. What it does is it maps tools and case studies onto the pathway, and you can do that in local areas, but you can also share nationally about learning. So you'll be able to access this. It's actually being piloted in the southwest at the moment, and we're populating this, so this should be a good legacy product for all of you to access. And now, without further ado, I'd like to thank all of the young people who are here today and up on the stage. And we wouldn't have been able to do all that without them, because they've really informed our work in GIFT. But we're going to move on to Young Minds, and we'd like to introduce Young Minds who are leading on participation for parents and carers. Very important aspect that's developing at the moment. You'll see the similarities to what I've been saying, but there are also a lot of differences for parents and carers, and Young Minds have started to hear some of that, and they're going to share that with you now. So can I hand over to Damon?
Some absolutely, truly amazing examples of participation, and it's really heartening to be here to just see how much participation has really become embedded within CYP IAPT. We're here to talk about Just Say, which is Young Minds, parents and carers in relation to participation. And so we've started this work from April, and to give you an overview of that work, we've worked with over 530 parents to date who have registered within our work. And you can see within that we've got a core group of 20 parents, and in addition to that we've done extensive telephone interviews with 40 parents and carers across the country. We've got opportunities for 5 parents and they're being filled in terms of our national representation groups. And the makeup of our 530 parents and carers who have signed up to the work is 9% of them come from BAME, Black, Asian, Minority Ethnic communities. 18% of those parents will have a disability. 6% of the parents are LGBT parents. And so why have they been coming to us to develop participation, and what is going to be the tangible product that we will see as an outcome of that? NHS England have commissioned us to deliver a toolkit, an online toolkit, and within that online toolkit it's for the purposes of CAM services to know how to work in a more engaged way with parents and carers in participation. From our research that we've undertaken with parents and carers, we've looked at 5 essential areas which keep coming up as recurring themes that parents and carers would like to be more engaged on. And so those themes are communication, access, service development and improvement, workforce development, and engagement. Essentially, what all the parents tell us is what they want is about building the resilience of parents and carers in order to then be able to build the resilience within their child or young person. You can see from our map of where people have registered from. So you can see the 500 people have registered from throughout England, and where we've done interviews and focus groups is the second map. Okay, so why is participation important to us? And from listening to the interviews, doing the research with the parents, as I say, they've come up with 5 themes. So within communication is the first theme. And before I move on any further, I'm going to introduce you to 2 of the parents who've been working with us on developing the work and also within the activity, the session this morning. So, Jackie.
Good afternoon. My name's Jackie Mann and I am a parent. I've got 2 children, Ollie who's 25 and Bryony who's now 20. When she was 11, she suffered from anorexia, and we had 3 years of some very traumatic times, getting through the CAM system, getting her recovered, getting life back on track, and I'm pleased to say that she made a good recovery. I also felt that parents weren't being supported well enough. I felt very on my own and alone with the trauma that I was going through. So once Bryony was back well again, I, with another parent, set up a support group in Devon. So the work in terms of supporting parents we've taken on under the umbrella of BEAT, which is the Eating Disorder Charity. Coupled with my own personal experience of eating disorders, professionally I found it interesting from the point of view of I've got a 35-year professional career in the health service and with children and young people and families. So I found it very actually helpful but also unhelpful to be both a professional in the field in which my daughter had an illness and was actually surprised by, in physical healthcare and children's services, how much we work in partnership with parents, but then as a parent, when I took my child into the mental health services arena, how much there wasn't that same partnership with parents. So it is one of my sort of existing passions that I think parents should be participators, and we haven't quite been mainstreamed yet.
Thank you. Thank you. And Liz?
Hello, I'm Liz Bland, and I've got 3 children, 2 of who've had to access services from CAMS. We've been involved in the service for actually 7 years now, and I've got a large sort of network of other people I've met, and all of us appear to have had the same kind of experiences, views, and so I really welcomed this opportunity to actually be able to pass on some of the views of my own views and other parents' views about what has worked and what hasn't worked in our experience with CAMS. I've also very lucky to be invited to join the working party looking at improving integration of services.
Thank you. So to move back to the toolkit in relation to communication. So Jackie is going to explain some of the key messages which come out of the recurring themes around communication.
Okay. Early contact with CAMS can make a difference to all future experiences. And one of the experiences that we had was of feeling done unto. Bryony, when she recovered, talked about how she felt everything was done unto her during the time that she was poorly and recovering. Unfortunately, that has had a negative impact because sadly, about 18 months ago, Bryony became very ill and relapsed after a number of years with her anorexia in the transition between leaving sixth form and university. So currently, she's not very well. And one of the things that was very difficult when she became unwell was her experience of CAMS was something that made her very reluctant to go back to mental health services as what she is now, an adult. So early contact with CAMS can have a lasting effect, and especially for youngsters with any mental health condition where it might be a chronic, lifelong condition which they have to manage going through their lives, it's important to get it right and to get a good experience early on. Parents are keen to develop a partnership with clinicians to support the child, young person through the treatment. We do want that partnership. We do want to be part of our children's care. We want to be part of, well, we are part of our children's lives. And I suppose a fraction of our children's lives is made up of the time that they have involvement with CAMS. So in order to enhance what you do and to make what you do and carry it forward into their future as part of their resilience package, we'd like to be more involved. Make available information about children and young people's mental health in a range of formats. That's really important because as children come in all shapes and sizes and ethnic minorities and with disabilities, whether it's hard of hearing, hard of visually impaired, so do parents. And again, you need to maybe think about the delivery of messages, of information, of making communications such a wide variety of people can have access to it. Always explain the process ahead and what to expect for both children, young people and parents. In our workshop today, we've been looking at expectations, and I think parents come into the process of dealing with CAMS with one set of expectations and needing very much to have somebody help them with the pickle that they find themselves in with their children. But equally, schools may refer a child and they'll come in with a set of expectations. What the paediatricians may want in dealing with a child, helping a child, might be a slightly different twist to what CAMS are aiming for. So expectations and having people sit down and work out, if you like, the terms of reference before you start keeps everybody together and kind of singing from the same hymn sheet. Understanding the tensions around confidentiality, as far as I'm concerned, that one's a huge one. And it's one that really, really disturbs a lot of parents, inhibits a lot of good work that CAM services want to do. And it's something about which I think there's a lot of uncertainty. I personally don't feel that confidentiality should be an inhibitor to you sharing information and for all working collaboratively for the child, for children. So it's really finding a way to broaden out the horizons of confidentiality. It shouldn't be a block to communication.
The second theme on the work tool is in relation to access, equality and diversity. And that very much is what it says on the tin. It's very much what parents say to us, is that when CAMs produce information, to do it in a really accessible, jargon-free format, non-medicalised, so that it's easily read and understood. That can make a huge difference to parents and carers. Also arranging appointments around the needs of the family, really understanding and recognising the needs of the whole family and being able to make appointments for them at convenient times can make a significant difference within their lives. Looking at hard-to-reach groups and how you reach out to those groups so that those parents feel that they've got a true CAM service which is also representative and culturally appropriate to their needs. Service leadership. Okay, the next one was service leadership and development. That is very much about looking at ways in which parents can improve the leadership and development of CAM services. So different ways in which they can do that is looking at ways in which they can support pathway development, looking at consultations on Tier 4 provision or on issues such as care programme approach, looking at different aspects. Parents have said they'd really like their views to be able to be shaped and to be understood and recognised by decision makers when developing services. And also one of the things that they talk about is about the recognition that if you strengthen us, you strengthen our children. So working with CAMs to be able to find those ways of how you can strengthen parents and carers.
And workforce development, involving parents in the recruitment and induction processes, really mirrors what the young people have already said, that involving parents as well in this process will make sure that those kind of participation and involvement is actually embedded right from the beginning. Maybe in training sessions, presenting, using parents to present scenarios which will make people think about the parents' point of view. Increase awareness of additional conditions and comorbidity issues. This is something I could talk about for hours, but I won't be allowed to. So, but it's just the child might be referred for one specific reason, but actually it's taking the whole child into account, and they may have various issues running alongside each other. There's no, like my personal experience, there's no point in treating a child for a mental health issue if there's unresolved issues, if they have something like a sensory processing disorder, because it's hard to separate those two things that both might be causing anxiety.
And the final strand on the toolkit is methods of engagement. So how CAM services can work more with parents and carers. So how they can actively get them on board to listen to them, and it might be about working with pre-existing groups within the localities. There's lots of different groups where the parents will have had access with CAMs, and CAMs can outreach to those groups and work with those parents. work with parents in relation to evaluation and feedback. So when parents have said something, provide feedback to parents, because time is really important to parents, and obviously they don't want to be saying things with it falling onto ears which are not being listened to. So to be able to give that feedback to parents is really important. And peer support groups is one of the overarching things that constantly keeps coming up about working with parents who have been through the system. For those new parents who are coming into the system, can be really, really strengthening bond to be able to really understand and have far greater outcomes within child and adolescent mental health services. We're now going to ask you to do a task. You'll notice on your tables you have paper. You have a couple of moments to do that, and you'll see 3 questions on the sheets within your tables. So they are: what outcomes would you like to see as a result of involving parents in CAMS? What challenges do you face with parent participation? And what can your service do to address the improvement of participation with parents? So I'll just give you a moment to think of those, and perhaps talk to your neighbour, your colleague, about what those are, and we'll try and get some very quick feedback. Okay, we're going to give you 30 seconds before we come at you with asking for some feedback. Okay, anyone on the left-hand side of the room got a point? Yeah? Jackie, have you got someone? Okay, lovely. So the first question, if you could just answer, give us some feedback on what outcomes would you like to see as a result of involving parents in CAMS?
Well, one outcome, I have to say, I don't want to take credit from somebody else who suggested it, which is that parents would engage more. You know, that they would feel, not only that they would feel more involved, but that you would actually see a behavioural outcome in terms of, you know, parents coming along, bringing their children, being, you know, thinking of CAMS as valuable as someone to take their children.
Okay, thank you. Okay, you can see we asked parents this same question the other day. These are some of the answers. We don't have time to go into them, but you can see influencing commissioners around holistic services development, always considering the impact of the whole family, better communication about how feedback and outcomes have changed the delivery of care and the delivery of services, a reduction in DNAs, improved access to early interventions, a non-judgmental partnership, and knowing the efficacy of intervention. Okay, the next, anyone ready next? For the next question, which is on what challenges do you face with parent participation?
Hi, this is a combined view from our table.
Right.
But parents have support needs themselves, for themselves, not just for their children.
Definitely, that's a huge one, which really does come across. And what our parents said is about the challenges they face, is about waiting times and the impact that has on managing expectations. And of course, that can also impact upon the needs of the parent and the family as well, the longer that waiting time is. Getting the timing right, managing expectations around key points in the journey, understanding confidentiality, and accessing opportunities to attend appointments and parent groups. Okay, Jackie, is there a third table who can answer? What can your service do to address the improvement of participation with parents?
Off the top of my head. I'm thinking about the work we already do with young people and making sure that we can Jackie talked about mainstreaming parent participation when we've already got young people's participation embedded, and doing that in a way that's positive and constructive, so that we can continue to support young people to work alongside parents, which maybe might not be easy.
Okay, you can see from
expert parents. Using parents more to support each other and empowering them to use their experience and their knowledge. So kind of accessing that and getting it established and embedded in CAMS. You know, there's already some evidence in multi-family group work that's really effective.
And I think for those who are in the session, the workshop this morning on confidentiality and the tensions that can bring with the parents' engagement, you could really see it was a very dynamic, interactive session, which also had a lot of lights going on within the room, seeing it from the parents' perspective. But to hear it from the parents the other day, what they fed back was to be actively involved, take part in parent forums where they exist, set one up if one doesn't exist, acknowledge what parents know and raise the profile of that. Okay, so that concludes the end of our session. I'd like to thank Liz and Jackie for their input this afternoon. Thank you very much.
Thank you for all the work you are doing. We do look forward to seeing the outcomes later on.
Yes, that was great. And I think we have learned so much from this. There's a couple of things I just wanted to share with you that resonate. When I think Fiona talked about young people designing clinical areas, it reminds me that in my own hospital in Bristol, we've just given over to the young people the capacity to design their own areas, their own recreation areas, including the colour schemes. And when I tell you that the colour schemes have come back as purple and lime green, and I'm rather a pink person, but nonetheless it's all in place and they're actually loving it. And just the other thing to say that in terms of the parents, building the parents' resilience just cannot be more important to understanding, helping and supporting their young people, to actually engaging and involving, and to knowing too at what stage their young person can sort of be set free, to allow themselves to understand that they too, with their parents always there, with their clinicians always there, can take an accountability for themselves, and I think this is incredibly important. But all in all, it's just fabulous work, and it's wonderful to hear. It's very moving. I'm now breaking completely off script, and I'm going to be told to get on with it, aren't I?